you haven't heard, the Cathedral Park Dock in North Portland is getting a major upgrade, and you're invited to come along for a free party on Saturday, June 29th to celebrate its grand reopening. The Human Access Project is hosting a Cathedral Park River Fest where you can dance to live funk and soul music while enjoying free swimming lessons, kayak rentals, that's pretty cool, and a life jacket giveaway. There will also be food vendors and community booths, so come on and join the party on Saturday, June 29th from 2 to 8 p.m. and experience the revitalized Cathedral Park waterfront. It's going to be awesome. I'll for sure be there, probably jumping off the dock. This month on CityCast Portland, we're interviewing candidates running to be the next mayor of our city. And today on the show, we're talking to our fourth candidate, Carmen Rubio. She's a current Portland City Commissioner overseeing the Community and Economic Development Service area, which includes housing, sustainability, and permitting. Carmen has a long history of working in Portland city politics and nonprofits within leadership and policy roles. And today on the show, we're talking to her about why she thinks she's fit for the job. It's Tuesday, June 25th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. So I've heard rumors that you play a kind of video game that is akin to Dungeons & Dragons. Please tell me everything about your gaming character. Like, what are they wearing? Special skills? Yes. I need all of this information.
So it is true. I'm deep into Baldur's Gate 3 right now.
Okay.
And so I am currently right now, I can play 5 different characters, but my main character is a high elf named Sabine, and she is a sorceress.
Ooh.
Some of her powers are definitely there. She has a lot of psychic power, and she can read people's minds, and she can also throw awesome thunderbolts and, manipulate like the elements sometimes and cool stuff like that.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I'm more of a Mario Kart person, which I think just shows the depth of my character. Well, you do have a lot of experience in local government. Like, you worked under former Mayor Tom Potter as Director of Community Affairs. You were a policy advisor for Lake Commissioner Nick Fish. But a good faction of Portland voters are just tired of how the city has been running. They kind of associate anyone with like, yeah, you're a politician, big ideas, no follow through. How are you going to lead differently?
That is such a good question. And you've just described, our reality right now. And I started at a really strange time and unusual time for a lot of politicians to start their very first term. And I came in, right in the middle of the pandemic, right when the fentanyl epidemic was kicking, being more sadly visible, and then also right after the racial justice protests, in 2020. So I started in 21. So from the start, we sort of inherited decisions from the past councils, but also started in an awkward way, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are you the most proud of? Let's say, like, if someone's like, report of the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Where are you just like, these are the things that I'm most proud that I was able to get through? Because I do agree, a lot of commissioners tried so hard to get stuff through, and almost everything did not work.
Yeah, absolutely. Things I'm super proud about that I was able to get done during this hard time was cutting unnecessary codes and regulations to spur more housing development. That is something that was a big lift, and I was able to do that even just within the last year and a half, because that's really when I got assigned the Housing Bureau a year and a half ago. In that year and a half, I've also established the city's first ever Office of Small Business. And that was a directive after hearing all of the challenges. And we heard it from day one post-pandemic. So what can we realistically do that are obvious things? And this felt very obvious and very needed. And we should stop making small businesses and the public have to navigate their own city government. We should be making it as easy as possible. Also, consolidating the city's permitting functions after decades of disagreement. It needed some political attention and some political courage to really just make the decision that we're going to go this way. We're going to do this. Mm-hmm. It's going to hurt maybe a little bit, because change is really challenging, especially in the midst of crises. But it's necessary if we want to get our economy back on track and housing more built, in this time. And then finally, also reforming our clean energy fund to enable more investments into private and public sector partnerships. I think that is one of the biggest things that I'm proud of because it required a lot of care and attention. A lot of work went in on the ground from community to make sure that this fund happened. And how can we protect the fund while also...
You're talking about the Portland Clean Energy Fund?
Yeah. How do we protect the fund while putting it to good use, and particularly during this time?
Yeah. I'm trying to get back to what I asked because I feel like we did get that question answered.
About what I'm proud of, or
how would you lead differently? I just feel like...
how would I lead different? Okay,
yeah.
A governance question. How would I lead differently during this time? So what I would be doing different is my style is very much constant communication with the public. That is something that leading a large organization, and as an executive leader of a large nonprofit for many, many years, when we were going through our own growing pains and sometimes we had our own crises, leadership matters and communication from the leadership matters a lot. Even if the work is like, nothing's happening yet on this issue, but we're still working on it. That is information that I think the public needs to know and wants to know. They want to know that we're working on things. And so that's what I would absolutely do different is step up the communication with the public, make sure that the media has access to what we're doing and really can make ourselves available so that they understand the dynamics and the nuances around each of these issues. Because these issues are just not all they're not dichotomous. They're very complex and they're multidimensional. And it's our job to figure it out and do what's in the best interest of Portlanders. So the public deserves more time from us on that.
Mm-hmm. If you had to pick just one thing that isn't working in Portland right now, what would it be and how would you fix it?
I would definitely fix the permitting problems right now.
Yeah.
Like with the snap of a finger. I would have wanted that done yesterday so that we could still get more housing in the pipeline. And that would just be one good big barrier removed to what we need to do to kind of get our city economy and housing and development back on track.
Yeah. So speaking of permitting, currently you're the commissioner overseeing housing and development. And recently the city auditor's office released a report on how the city's inclusionary housing program, which is aiming to create affordable housing for the most in need, is in their report falling short. Now, one of the big takeaways from the report is that the majority of units that are being built are either studios or one bedrooms, which don't really accommodate a good chunk of the demographic that's being targeted in the program. So how would you change the city's current incentives for developers to avoid building these empty apartment buildings and actually address our housing crisis?
No, I think that the audit lifted out some really important points. This is not a perfect policy. It's just what we need to focus on. It's just one tool out of many that we have to use. And this is just one tool that, but for this tool, we still would not have had over 1,000 affordable housing units, period. So I would rather have them than not. But that said, yes, absolutely. We need to build more family size units. Housing in general needs to be more affordable and attainable for people who live here, particularly frontline communities and folks in the service sector who can't even afford to live here anymore. So yeah, there definitely can be improvements. We are constantly looking for ways that we can incent developers, remove red tape, and how to catalyze things so that but the policy has to do no harm to anyone or do no harm to the economy. And that's the intent and the balance that we're trying to strike.
Yeah, we recently spoke to a developer in town, and he just pointed out that a lot of these developers that are working with the city are outside interests. They're just not from here. So they don't have the best in mind for our community. They're just going to try to make the biggest dollar they can. And if that means like 14 shotgun windowless apartments, like whatever, even if like they're checking the box that the city is saying it's not really aligning with our wider vision, So I'm curious, like, again, specifically, like, how would you incentivize these basically moneymakers who don't care about our community to actually care about? I know you're going to work with a bunch of other people, but what's your idea?
So when I didn't have the Bureau, it was under a different commissioner. Some of these issues came more to light. And council started pointing out that, I'm sorry, but a minuscule bedroom does not count as a bedroom, and is it on par and in the spirit of the rest of the building? Are renters going to feel like a part of that community and not be othered within that community? So there were some real strong pushbacks by council that resulted in some recalibrations of what is now more acceptable than not. So there have been some tweaks, but we will have to continue to make those tweaks over time. I don't think it's a reason to not do the program, but I agree with you. We have to be more vigilant. I really, really, really love the idea about creating more of a registry so that we can track that over time. We just haven't had capacity or time to do that. And that's a lost opportunity for the city. So it's going to be, I think, an ongoing process, but we got to stay vigilant.
All right, well, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, more with mayoral candidate and city commissioner Carmen Rubio.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, CEO of CityCast. Or, as I can say now, thanks to a few weeks with Babbel, hola, soy David Plotz, el jefe de CityCast. What if in 2024 you got a little bit better every day? When you're learning a new language with Babbel, that's exactly what you're doing. And if Babbel can help me start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks, imagine what you could do in a full year. I got started with Babbel because I realized that my girlfriend, who's a native Spanish speaker, and my son, who's in AP Spanish, were conspiring against me, or I thought they were conspiring against me in Spanish. I wanted to know what they were talking about. And now, thanks to literally just a few weeks of Babbel, I'm starting to be able to eavesdrop. It is rare that something so fun and simple, and Babbel is super fun and very simple, is also so useful. So here's a special limited time deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
As a mayor, you would have a very different leadership role. How would you use that in a way you can't now on this specific issue?
So I think the differences maybe between the leadership role I have now and then using this specific example, what I don't have authority now are things like the Revenue Bureau to look at like what incentives and the impact on the budget. Mm-hmm. I do have access to it, but I just don't have authority over it right now. I can get information, but really it takes collaboration and getting into alignment with the mayor who oversees those things currently. So I would have the ability to have a team that we can really troubleshoot these issues as they come up. And I don't have to worry about them being under multiple different commissioners and getting their permission. Because sometimes that has happened in the past around things that I won't get into but there have been instances in the past where we want to do that. And if one person disagrees, they can basically block us off from talking to their whole bureau.
That's so petty.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it'll be much healthier, much clearer, and more experts involved and around the table. So it'll ultimately result in better policy, I think.
Yeah, fingers crossed there. A lot of people have ideas about housing, a lot of people who know nothing, including our podcast. But we're still in the worst housing crunch we've ever seen. Like, what's one big idea you've seen work in another city that you're just like, oh, Portland should do that?
Oh, yeah. So there are two. A really big one for me is conversions, thinking about buildings that are not currently in use and how can, particularly in our downtown core, how can we convert them into housing? I do know that, there's been a lot of analyses done. It's pretty expensive in our region to do that because of where we lie in terms of like being in certain, subduction zones and earthquake zones, et cetera. So the seismic retrofitting costs sometimes outweigh the benefits of conversion, but it is working in other cities. When we visited Milwaukee, Wisconsin just recently, they had done that to a good portion of their downtown in certain old buildings, and it created whole new neighborhoods, and it was very cool. And I'm reading about it in other places as well. So that's one idea. The other idea is taking a look at social housing. There's social housing models that are in Vienna, that are in, I believe it's Vancouver, BC, and some other places around the world that have shown us like a completely different model and really paradigm around how we see housing that is affordable to its residents. And yes, we're not a socialist country. We don't provide universal health care and certain other things universally. So there are clearly some very big distinctions about what we can and cannot do. But the premise is a good one, and it's worthwhile to look into. And it has this domino effect, which is really healthy ultimately for the economy in the city.
Right. So you have expressed your support to the Joint Office of Homeless Services, unlike two of your opponents. What do you think the Joint Office is doing right? And how would you change it if you were mayor?
Well, I support the Joint Office work because the city and the county are interdependent. And I feel that for us to make real progress, it is not helpful for us to keep lobbing bombs at our jurisdictional partners. Yes, there are times when there needs to be accountability, and there are times, and sometimes in this situation, right? But I think that there's a point at which we need to remember that we're in this together, and there's a lot of interdependence between the city and the county. So our job is to stay at the table and figure it out. And so we can push and we can hold accountable, but ultimately, I don't think it serves Portlanders for us to back out altogether. One of the biggest partners that we need, and they need us. So we need to stay at the table. We need to identify what our common goals are, and then let's work from there. Let's set a foundation, and let's rebuild some trust. So,
and what would you change though? What's not working for the city right now, you think?
Oh, there are a number of things I think that the city has outlined. But in general, the city would like to have more ability to kind of direct the work or understand where the city of Portland's work is impacting the larger and broader strategy. And I don't think up until recently that has been happening in a way that there felt like true co-leadership on this, right? And so a lot of that pushing and a lot of those conversations has resulted in a new model. And we all stood together not too long ago, the city and the county leaders, talking about this new joint model that we're going to give a try. And that supersedes any one joint office. It's really, because it's true, it's larger than the joint office. The joint office is one implementation arm of a larger strategy that needed to be there in the first place that really wasn't functioning before. So if anything, we need more collaboration between the city and the county. The city's realities on implementation need to be factored into the county's thinking more in policy setting and goal setting and funding. And so that is something that is actually shifting. And I'm confident that we can get to an agreement for this next intergovernmental agreement. So,
because you're signing a new contract.
We are signing a new contract, but there is a lot more in there, a lot of substantial and material difference from prior agreements. So that is progress.
You know, one of the things that you said, how you were going to lead differently from previous mayors and city administration, is that you were going to have constant communication with the public. I mean, I know it's not constant, but like a bit
regular.
Yeah. And you're calling yourself the option for a no drama mayor, and you've admitted that you're pretty much an introvert. You've also been described as quiet. Do you think that this is going to hurt your ability to connect with voters at all?
I don't think so, but I will say that I have gotten much more confident or just much more in the media world since my very early days. And I think I had to make a shift in my mentality from one a staffer to elected, because the last time I was in this building, I was a staffer for many, many more years than I was an elected. So that shift has been made. It's already done. It's not an issue for me. I also believe that when people actually get to know me and engage with me, they understand why I'm in this role. They understand why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I'm running for mayor. That's why I think I have such broad support.
Yeah. Part of being no drama sometimes means avoiding conflict. But as you know, you're going to upset a lot of people as the mayor, just having to get that work done. And some of your critics think that you may not have that in you. What has been your most controversial vote or a policy while on city council? Like, who did it anger? Like, what did you do? I want to hear that.
Oh my gosh. That is so curious to me because I wonder that sometimes that critique is a little gendered because I tend to hear it in a certain way and often in certain ways. But I also think it's curious because I feel like of all my colleagues other than the mayor, I have often taken on the most heady issues. I am the one that's had the portfolio that is oftentimes other than the mayor, the most community facing, and other than the mayor has brought forth the most high stakes issue to council. And I have angered many people because, I am so, I don't want to make it seem like I like this, but like I am so often in conflict. Like I am comfortable in that space. And that preceded this job. I worked for electeds where I constantly had to give people not great news sometimes. And then also as an organizational leader, if you've been an executive leader, you have to make hard, high stakes decision that sometimes people feel like they're on the losing end of that decision. In this job, oh my gosh, so many times I can't take your pick. I mean, there are things like, around the camping ban, also around the police accountability things, zoning issues, business development issues, foreclosure issues. I think that maybe there are a lot of things that don't often get in the news, but the business of the city, there are constantly groups, all well-meaning, well-intentioned, or most of them at least, trying to make sure that their work moves forward in the city. And sometimes there are critical junctures where you have to make those calls and decisions.
Can you be specific?
So housing regulatory reform. So we wanted to try and cut some red tape and sort of look at the code and take out things that were impeding, a more smoother ability to kind of ultimately build more housing. So we looked at all these codes. We did a survey. The fact that we even did a survey upset some people. It upset, some folks who were very concerned about sustainability and environment because they had, long fought issues, and so suddenly for us to put it out there for just as inquiry to see where people were, felt like very concerning to them because it made them worry that we were going to roll back on environmental issues. And so that's one example. And that's just the survey.
Yeah. Well, I'm ending every one of our mayoral candidate interviews with the same question. I'm just curious, like, what the thing you miss most when you leave Portland for work or vacation? Like, what is it?
Yes. I miss the air. I miss the clean air that I like. And I know clean air is a whole other story, but like, it's just a brisk freshness that I feel. And maybe it's in my mind, but I don't think so. Like, I love the Portland airport when we land. And it feels breezy and green, just like our values. And I love that we have trees and we're so close to water. I even love the rain. And I think that's what makes me feel grounded here and at home. Being really close enough to touch the water and the earth together. I mean, and then looking every day and waking up every day and seeing Mount Hood when we get home from wherever we're going, it just reminds you that this is home. All those sensory things together make me feel like that's home.
The other thing I was going to ask, what is your campaign song?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. I'll tell you. I love the Pitbull song, I Believe We Will Win.
It's Pitbull!
I do. I love it.
Mr. Worldwide.
Yes.
All right.
He's my guy.
Okay, cool. That's it. That's our Carmen, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us, answer these questions. And yeah, good luck with everything.
Well, thank you, Claudia. This has been great. I love that there's a true interest in understanding the dimension to all the things going on in the city. So thanks for asking them. Thanks for being interested.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend, rate or leave us a review. It really does help us out. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you, Whitslip.